Just a long lost look in your eyes brings out a love that I can't disguise. So take me down to the places I've never seen. Oh, don't you try to kill me with kind. It's just your love that's driving me wild. Oh, from the dawn we rise, with the heart we cry, into the light we go, into the light we go. From the darkest night, from the fire inside, into the light we go, into the light we go, into the light we go. It's just a long lost look in your eyes, brings out a love that I can't disguise. Oh, from the dark we rise, with the heart we cry, to the light we go.
Greetings, everybody, and welcome back to another day of LCK 2018 Spring. We're nearing the end of Week 8 here, the last day, and we got the World Finals rematch, SKT versus KSV, to start the night.
What a bizarre world we are in, though, Valdez. Here we are, KSV versus SKT. It definitely has playoff implications, but not ones we could have foreseen on that famous day in November, played at the Beijing Stadium. Suddenly SKT, it's not quite must win, but it effectively is. If they don't take down KSV, their hopes are remote, and then some.
This is their night to make sure that they have their own fates in their own hands. They don't want to give it to someone else. They don't want to have a team have to lose to someone in order to make it in. So a huge night for both of these teams. Let's introduce them now.
두 팀의 상황은 그때와는 많이 다른데요. 과연 오늘은 어떤 결과가 기다리고 있을까요? 먼저 상승세를 이어가며 분위기가 후끈 달아올랐습니다. 현재 순위 4위. 여기서 멈출 순 없습니다.
KSV looking good in recent times, able to take 3 match wins in a row over some decent opponents, taking out BBQ, KT, and the Jin Air Green Wings. It seems like they've got their feet under them once again.
I mean, 2 weeks ago, I had some choice words for KSV after they fell to MVP, but they have turned their season around since then. They do draft with a structure, they're stuck with ambition, and honestly, with another victory, they're guaranteed to be in the top 5, and increasingly, there's an outside chance they leapfrog KT Rolster and make it to 3rd spot. So KSV finally firming as a playoff team.
The thing that makes me happiest when I see KSV is looking at Crown and watching him be so happy, smiling in the booth. He's not depressed. He doesn't have his head in his hands. He gets to play his Vel'Koz as well, which we've seen have some decent success. He's 4-1 on that so far, only 1 loss. So liking his picks, enjoying the game again, it seems, for Crown. And that only means good news for KSV. Kive also having a bit of a smile in the booth. Let's introduce our second team tonight.
그리고 오늘 자존심을 건 승부를 시작합니다. 찰나했던 시절 경기력의 부활을 기대하며 SK텔레콤 T1!
SKT not in the same position. I mentioned KSV on a 3-match winning streak. SKT, the exact opposite, 3 losses in a row. But again, it was against Kingzone, KT, but then they lost to BBQ, and that's the big hurt for them.
But they do welcome back one of their players they used at the start of the season. Effort has not seen any play in almost 6 weeks, but is preferred to Wolf, who honestly looked really depressed and sad after their most recent loss, so who knows the reason for his substitution, but Wolf had to be consoled by his teammates after that loss against BBQ. Today they bring back Effort, who has been a solo queue monster, but in professional play hasn't been able to make the jump as effortlessly.
Yeah, I mean, this is a lineup that we've seen way in the past. You mentioned when Effort was starting a lot, even when they were trying to put Wolf into the jungle. It's just a lineup that's kind of young and inexperienced when you look at especially Tall and Effort. So we'll see if they can pull it back together. Another guy who has to do that is Blank. You see him on your screen. Definitely famous for not the best play we've seen so far in spring.
Yeah, he doesn't have the memes that are going to make him very happy, but Tal on your screen had a better series than Untara, so at least there's two big whipping boys, you'd have to say, for SK Telecom T1. It has been Untara and Blank. Tal will play. The blind pick Casio didn't work in the top lane, but he largely has had the lane presence that Untara has struggled to have. But fans will ask, where is Blossom? Because it was with Blossom that they were able to beat KSV 2-0 and look impressive doing it in the first round robin.
Yeah, that's really what got them back on track, but let's go ahead and look at some graphs here. So KSV, a couple of losses. They lose to Afrika. It makes sense. Afrika is fantastic in this season. But then MVP, the 1-2 loss, you said it was rubbish, I believe. It was just some of the worst play we've seen. And to be honest, on that day, it definitely felt like they deserved to have that kind of talk. But they've certainly turned it around, and I think we should give it to them for doing exactly that.
And look, I don't think I was the only one giving KSV real talk. The world champions losing to MVP and honestly going through a period of being indifferent when it came to their play, not showing any improvement over 6 weeks of play. They deserve the criticism, but they've bounced back. They've looked a lot better in their recent matches, not necessarily flawless. They did drop games in their last 2 series. But on the other side of the coin, we have SKT, who have had streaky play. They had the loss streak into a win streak, and now they're coming crashing back down to earth, and SKT fans can excuse the loss to Kingzone. It feels bad, but they can excuse the loss in the telecom war. The loss to BBQ is one that is hard to excuse, as now, even if they beat KSV, they don't entirely have their future in their own hands. They have to look to the Rocks Tigers to lose matches that on paper they should be winning.
Exactly, and the match that SKT had against the BBQ Olivers felt a lot like KSV versus MVP, that very slow 1-2 loss where they get close but inevitably fall down to a team that on paper is weaker to them. So maybe that's the time where SKT looks in the mirror and says, guys, we got to turn it around, and maybe bouncing off of that loss could lead them into some success tonight.
Problem with SKT papers is all the papers are achievements of the past. All the papers show they are legends, but those papers this season have meant little. Bang has had a great season. FLICKR has had a down season, but has still had definitely moments of individual brilliance. But Blank's a world champion. They have a lot of players who on paper should be contributing much more than they are. And Bang has been the player they built around. That's why it's surprising that, you know, his form with Effort was definitely lower than his form with Wolf, and they are actually changing his support. So what that means for Bang, that part we're going to find out today.
Certainly a big question, and going into this one, definitely a matchup I was looking forward to. Ambition looking a lot better in recent times. I feel like he's gotten back into his groove. He's farming very well. He's not making a lot of mistakes, and he's just a really solid tank player from the jungle for KSV, whereas Blank, you know, we say vision control. It definitely avoids some of the down parts of his season so far, but hoping he can turn it around tonight.
Honestly, it should be an and. It should be tankiness and vision control, because both these players trade in that. They are not ganking junglers primarily. They are definitely not the carnivorous junglers, the herbivores that Ambition has always represented and Blank has been this season. But honestly, Ambition has been a better Blank when it comes to 2018 playstyle, and we're still waiting for Blank to take a game by the scruff of its neck and remind us of what he could do, because last year, he was the better Lee Sin. He was popping off in some games, going 5-6 kills in the early game, and that feels like a long time ago, Valdez.
Yeah, so very simple explanation here, the mid laners, as you guys should know. Not the highest KDA in recent games, or damage per minute, or damage done. And certainly both of these guys have been getting some help from their teammates overall. They haven't been the shining stars. Crowd comes out with some interesting picks, but he's not carrying the entire game with his Veldikaz. He's more of like a supporting guy who finishes off the fights with his damage. So hopefully they can have a bit of a star performance tonight.
Spent a lot of time on poke champions recently, even in solo queue, playing AP Cog, playing other poke champions. So that seems to be what he's focusing on, staying out of the action, but still being able to put out damage. And so far, definitely pass marks on that. He's been smart with his positioning. That's helped them a lot in their recent victories.
Yeah. We don't get a graph to mention the supports. I feel like Corey JJ has been having an above average season for KSV, whereas definitely a big question mark once again as effort comes in. But guys, enough with the graphs and the talk. Let's get into pick and ban for game one. Here we go, KSV gonna start off on the blue side. SKT not messing around without Vel'Koz, saying, nope, we will not play against that.
Even though FLICKR has Kassadin, who would be happy to lane into the Vel'Koz, they don't want to give comfort to Crown, and Crown's performance has jumped up recently, so you can understand staying away from leaving that pick open. Your Gangplank ban as well, as Tal has been mostly successful on the Gangplank this season, 5-1, and we're seeing more and more GP as 8.4 has developed. See where the focus is for KSV on the third ban. Because again, Kassadin is that big favorite of FLICKR that may have lost in his most recent game, but has been their most potent pick. They're going to ban Rakan on the blue side here, which is very interesting. Both teams have been playing Xayah Rakan recently, but I guess there's been some duo queue with Bang and Effort, which does prompt the blue side Rakan ban.
Yeah, just don't want to have it first picked against you. Decide to ban out Rakan, so maybe we see Xayah, but most likely not. Tristana still available, one of the bigger AD carries we've been seeing more often. Not too many bans towards the AD carry, so yet that very high-tier jungler in Sejuani. Sejuani going to be picked up here for Ambition.
Taking over Skarner, you will notice, and Olaf, which is left available. They're not worried about Blank jumping onto the Olaf, and the Skarner doesn't have the best matchup into the Sejuani, because so often we've seen Sejuani walk up, ult the Skarner, and then smite away an objective or turn around the engage. Blank will go to the champion he has a world skin on. Jump onto the Zac, which has been a big pick for him in the past. And FLICKR is looking to blind pick very early. He's banned away the Vel'Koz. He knows that matchup is not there for Crown, and seems like he will take the Azir away from Crown as well.
Yeah, certainly an interesting blind pick in that one. Perhaps just going with confidence for these two guys. You know, you mentioned the world skin for Blank. I think anything to get his head back in the game would be nice. And perhaps that will help him out. So Ruler going to be jumping onto the Ezreal here.
So this suggests they want to first round their AD carry. And we've seen teams try and first round Caitlyn and have it turned around. So try and first round the Tristana and have it turned around on them again and again by aggressive picks like the Caitlyn that SKT were first picking on the blue side not a couple of days ago. So it's going to go for Ezreal, suggesting they're not going to play around bot side to any great degree in the early game. Cuve gets his big pick. He has been majestic on the Camille in recent memory. And with the Gnar banned away, the Camille takeaway is a big one for him.
Been seeing a lot of people popping off on the Camille, even Crazy having a good game on that recently. And I mentioned the Xayah, but even without the Rakan, still going to pick up the Xayah here for Bang.
Very curious to see Xayah priority. Does have the ability to lift off during the Hextech ultimatum and buy time. Can't actually exit, of course, but all about the delay there. So taking Xayah as a power pick has not been a thing since very early after release of Xayah Rakan, where players were unsure of the strength of the Rakan in particular. They do not take a mid laner in the first round, so I imagine some bans are going to be sent at KSV. You have to imagine that Crown will stay with his recent identity of playing poke champions, and I had the pleasure of watching him carry on the AP Cog in solo queue. Making that work in competitive play is much more tricky, and the Zac can answer the extremely long range of the AP Cog. But the longer you wait and the more that meta champions are not contested by KSV, you do wonder, Valdez.
That you do. And speaking about mid lane champions, you're going to have two of them banned away from you. The Taliyah seemed like an obvious choice after everything else that was banned out, including the Rise. The Thresh is going to be banned here. No pick on the Thresh for KSV. Didn't want to pick that up to try to counter the Zac or anything like that. So they just go ahead and ban that one away. And the Poppy gets locked in right away on the side of SKT. Where's that going? Is that support? Is that in the top lane?
It's going to be in the top lane. It's a very standard counter lane, counter in inverted commas, to the Camille, where you can use the steadfast presence to answer the hook shot and a lot of abilities. You can eject people out of the keepers, with the keeper's verdict, out of the Hextech ultimatum. So going to be tank fatal for the first time in a while. And okay, we're going to go for a return to their mid-game comps. They don't have the Varus, they have the Ezreal. So a different 2-item power spike, but a very mid-game focused comp from KSV. They do have split push in the late game, but they are largely trading on Ruler, and these are sort of comps they had moved away from largely that I was kind of encouraging. The Galio pick didn't work, but a utility mid laner and setting up around the one player who has been a hard carry in solo queue and situationally in professional play in Ruler is a style I like to see from KSV, whereas for SKT, team fighting, but not the Xayah Rakan, the Xayah Janna. First time we're seeing this, maybe ever, in the LCK.
It's very weird. You mentioned how, okay, the Xayah into the Camille, right? You can Feather Storm, you can get up there and try to dodge out a bunch, and then they pick even more disengage with the Poppy to counter that directly, and then the Janna as well. So how far are you really going to take it? For just skipping over the Tom Kents, which we've been seeing a ton out of all the supports in LCK, and skipping over that and going into the Janna, very strange.
I mean, the Hextech ultimatum should almost never register as you have Monsoon and Emperor's Divide and the Poppy ultimate to answer it. So maybe Camille in a team fight will be useless, and if you consider KSV's comp, they want to fight at a specific timing, and SKT have on-demand disengage to stop those fights. So you understand the theory being put forward by SKT. Laning phase for the Janna, going to be fine against the Braum as well. It's still very interesting, a very different identity for them. It's scaling, but not quite the severe scaling that they've been opting into a bit too much recently. So very interesting to see how that plays out for them. For the side of KSV, excited to see the Karma mid lane with the Ezreal. It's definitely a little bit different to how the Varus comps work. This should be a really fun game, and SKT debuting a slightly different style with effort in the lineup.
Yeah. Tall also jumping onto something that's not Gangplank or Vlad, which is mostly what we've been seeing out of him, more of just a tanky top laner. Going to take the back seat, not necessarily going to need the miracle teleports, which he's been struggling with. So let's see what he can do up in the top lane against Cuvé's Camille. Either way, we're going to jump into game number 1 right now. Well, here we are, match 79. We're nearing the end, and Ruler's trying to get some items here to start off the game. Very important match for both of these guys. KSV wants to go up a little bit on the rungs in terms of playoffs, and SKT struggling to get there in the first place.
And we're definitely in the penultimate chapter of the book of LCK Spring 2018. In 7 days will be the final match day over here at SPO TV for the regular season. And yet we still don't know the fate of SKT, which to many people is the team they're looking to in Korea. Nice little sack of gold picked up by Ruler with his first Q, so the Kleptomancy in full display. And SKT, they still run with Blank, and of course the fans have had a lot to say about Blank, both on the Korean side and on the global side. There's all sorts of interesting rumors about Blank right now, as there's a player in top 5 of Challenger who runs very similar champions to Blank, and SKT fans are saying that Blank is top 5 Challenger. Unconfirmed, but it's fun how there's a bit of a furor around him and about why he's in the lineup and why not. In this particular game, they run Effort as well, has been a solo queue monster, but was one of those players struggling at the start of the season when SKT couldn't get much done. And consider that Wolf is not in the lineup for the first time in a long time. We speculated let's hold the point.
Oh boy, this is going to be early. Gets the flash here out of Effort. Does trade, actually, the heal as well. J using both of his summoners in the trade.
Not the best laning start for Effort, we have to say. But the reason why I mention Effort is that Wolf's shot calling. You know, he was playing in the jungle at the start of the season. He went back into the support role, and that fortunes largely improved. We speculated that Wolf, being so downtrodden after the loss to BBQ, maybe the reason he's not playing today, but it will be conspicuous that one of their biggest senior voices involved in the shot calling is not there. So you have to look at the lineup and say, I guess FLICKR has to control most of the shot calling because it's difficult for an AD carry to pick up that responsibility.
Speaking of FLICKR, I saw him in the makeup room. Didn't get to talk to him because he was doing this like soulless glare into his eyes.
Hey,
in the makeup mirror.
He said
it was pretty deep, man.
Hey.
I was getting scared.
He did say hello to me, and then I responded "안녕하세요," and he responded to me. So there was a hello there.
Okay.
It was cordial.
There's something.
But if he's in a trance, if he's in that battle trance,
he
maybe
looks
that's
really
what he
focused.
needs.
You know, it might not have been as evil as I was feeling, but certainly he is ready to go in one way or another. So picks up the Azir very early on in the draft and says, "We're going late, guys, and I'm going to carry you. So get behind me and let's do this." So
And that's the scaling side, right? Is that SKT have been criticized for going full scaling too often, and I would definitely agree with that assessment. They try to play in the style where FLICKR will hit his items and they'll win a team fight, but Rift Herald comes through 8.4 bust Baron, which ends games with the Bannon. It hasn't really fit the style of the patches ever since the Rift Herald was introduced. So we jump into this game and say, yep, scaling, and you would consider that to be a dirty word against when it's being talked about with SKT. Do consider that their scaling also has team fight answers to the Camille that are undeniable. They have so much disengage that Camille ultimate, teamfight Camille should almost not be a thing. It probably has to be the split push Camille. And because of that, Valdez, theoretically, there is a point where KSV won't be able to get the fights they're trying to get in the mid game.
Yeah, we're taking a look at Pui's runes up there in the top lane. You guys might have noticed the interesting spelling on that one. But yeah, it's just the area, of course, for some harass to make sure you can do well against the Camille, and also the restoration, or the resolve tree rather, where you just get the two that everybody gets nowadays, the bone plating and the second wind. Let's hope he can be a bit better than Pui, though.
Having fun over there, Valdez.
Certainly one of the better ones we've had here at Spo TV.
Cuve's gone into the press the attack, which seems to be the recent choice on the Camille. Teamfight utility there as Blank's launching in mid lane.
No level 6 here for FLICKR, but he's going to be able to butt heads. Here comes Ambition, maybe able to lock down Blank, but Crown taking a little bit too much damage. FLICKR high health in this one means that they will not continue the engage.
Yeah, Blank was actually a couple of small monsters away from level 5 where your threat is so much higher onto the Zac, so just ends up backing away through all of that. No summoners used on either side, but a little chunk onto Crown, who's still going to be going for GP10. So notice he is going for a rush onto the Remnant of the Watchers. This is largely about the bandit procs you get when you finish that item. Mentioned it a couple times this week, but guys, still on patch 8.4, so bandit on support items, still a thing. So on this particular patch, a good way to pick up gold generation, and then also as a mid-game mage, you can opt into warding, you can opt into the sweepers lens, and be able to impact the map when it comes to the warding. So he can do that, but it's not an option available on patch 8.5.
Yep, definitely one of the interesting things about this patch. We'll see where the items will go afterwards. Probably won't see it too much on lanes outside of the bottom lane, but you notice the call was also picked up by Bang. He is doing so much damage overall, the highest KDA out of any 80 carries so far. Very high up in terms of the damage number, and this is another way to get his scaling online for his team.
It's also trying to match the early purchase, because Ruler went back for a very early tier. Why not opt into your own scaling item and pick up the call early enough in the laning phase that no turret should be down before he cashes it in. So just answering what was KSV was doing. I'm sure if KSV went for a more extended laning phase, there would have been no cull, but you're answering and getting a shop and piecing together items where you can.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just as simple as that. You never want to go back and buy an awkward longsword or something you're not really going to want that early on by itself. Certainly like the idea. Blank was hanging around mid a lot, noticing that he wanted to play around FLICKR. I think he definitely should after FLICKR hits level 6 here, but so far the warding around the mid lane has been solid for KSV. He's got a control ward on the left side of that lane right now.
Seeing Ambition bot side, he's level 6, but so is Blank, so SKT know about the potential of something happening here. Infernal was the first spawn, and KSV, with their mid-game focus comp, would love to start getting Drakes to pack more of a punch as the game goes on.
Speaking of a fight, he's trying to alley-oop him over to Blank, but they're turning this one around. FLICKR trying to flash away. That low karma, though, is going to go down. First blood going over to Blank in the jungle. Now with the red buff ticking onto Ambition, trying to get him down low here, but not quite enough. Will go for one more. Does get it and forces that flash away.
Oh!
Ezreal ultimate coming on in, making things interesting. Tal with a fantastic roam from top lane. Picks up the kill onto Ambition, and CoreJJ uses his flash, cannot get in range for Ignite, and does not get a kill.
Yeah, KSV used just as many members, but don't get the kill. Ambition greeted super hard, walking over to his wolf camp and was taken down. Red buff for the laning phase will help Tal. Here's the replay. This is really well set up by SKT. As they wombo in, the elastic slingshot damage doesn't register, so Crown doesn't die instantly. They are able to take down the Karma early in the piece. Very late roam coming from both the support and the top laner, but it was the greed of Ambition who could have just backed away, gone straight down mid lane after flashing. Instead, chose to walk up, gets assassinated by Tal, who's kind of happy that he missed the hero's verdict there.
Yeah.
Keeper's verdict, I should say.
So, really good start here for SKT. I liked the alley-oop play, and it looked like it was going to go in KSV's way, that fight, but the follow-up damage from Karma is just not there, especially early on before she's got too many items, and they could definitely snowball this into some more objectives, including this Infernal Drake. There's no vision down here, and 2 control wards for SKT.
Yeah, no way for CoreJJ to know this is happening because of the path SKT took. It was also free, because as you noticed, when the blue buff was being picked up, control ward was placed much earlier into the blue buff brush. Wasn't checked, it let them know that Crown couldn't have been there, so no threat at all on picking up that Drake. Very nice map move by SKT. And because they're scaling, seems to be putting them towards, you know, kind of a nirvana in the mid to late game where there might not just be a way for KSV to win team fights. When you consider front to back standard team fights, the front line of SKT should be unkillable to Karma Ezreal, who are the big threats on the side of KSV, and just disengage the Camille. Meanwhile, SKT have huge pass-through damage on the Azir and Xayah. So in this game, they're bridging well, they're playing the early game well, and they have a late game to be excited for. So far, big pass marks to SKT as they pick up that first Infernal.
Certainly a good start, and Tal going to be locked down here, but again, mentioned the ult for an ult kind of play style on the Poppy. Certainly having a fun time in the top lane after picking up that kill, and is not scared of Kyve on the Camille. Can definitely hold him down in the lane a lot better after that extra bit of gold.
Back up, consider where the game is at. Ambition is back to his old ganking bot duty, wants to get Ezreal ahead as much as possible. But Effort and Bang playing very defensively, and Effort has everything up, so hard to make that kill work. This area was controlled by SKT before, so Ambition should know he's going to be spotted walking around the bot side river.
2 AD carries going head to head. Speaking of which, the 2 junglers going head to head over this crab. Not gonna use anything onto Blank, but lots of movement around this bottom side river. Like that passive play from Effort and Bang, kind of knowing where the enemy is going to be at all times. And that cull certainly going to pay off for Bang eventually because of the lack of action in the bottom lane, as much as Ambition tries to get some action going.
Blank's not spotted going for this roam to bot side, but will be spotted now. KSV were going for the full-on recall, so no gank to happen. The draft from KSV is really atypical of the style they've been playing, especially with Poppy and other tools coming in to heavily answer the backup team fighting. You consider a team playing around a mid-game spike that has Ambition in it, that's going to play very defensively in the early game. They have much less map control than you would expect drafting Karma mid lane and also Camille into Poppy. They don't really have map control, they don't really have late game options. Pretty narrow win condition for KSV, and SKT really beefing up their first 12 minutes has made you wonder if SKT have already largely answered what KSV is all about.
Cheeky little red buff sealed there. Effort coming in just to support, just in case. Takes the blasting plant alone. Didn't want to allow Blank to get that, and good read because he knew that Ambition was going to be in the top side of his jungle at that point in time. Comes in, they get a lot of vision down in the jungle, and he's just able to kind of drive by on that red. So even though he's about 2.5 camps behind Ambition here, certainly getting a bit more done.
I've been a fan of his pathing so far. He's made some intelligent moves. He's been on the enemy side of the jungle much more than he has been in recent series, and he's making it work on a champion. Scales very well into the late game. The Olaf seemed to be something too far from his control when we saw the Olaf in that most recent series. This is definitely ultra comfort for Blank, and so far the rewards have been pretty clear for SKT fans to see.
Certainly was a nice gank in the mid lane. Just good communication between FLICKR and Blank. Would be interesting to hear from FLICKR and see what he says. Maybe he just has better communication with Blank overall, and even though he's not having the best play, FLICKR still feels more comfortable having Blank in the jungle. Not 100% sure, but just thinking about it right now.
Been a bit of a black box when it comes to SKT roster choices this season. They've played with their roster many, many times. They seem to be on a good thing with Blossom coming through the jungle, and then abruptly he has not played ever since he was subbed out. So we don't really have any true insight into that, and there hasn't been many interviews because I'm sure SKT think that there's really no way to satisfy the fans given the results haven't been going their way. When it comes to satisfying me in this particular game for KSV, you look at what they have, and it's an Iceborne Gauntlet Ezreal that's pushing in bot lane. The step from there for KSV, given kind of their struggles in the late game, is to take this bot lane outer turret. But SKT has been really good at having Blank bot side. They've had double control ward around their blue side jungle for the majority of the laning phase, and that means that Ruler is just trading farm with Bang and actually with the Janna as well. So both these champions have great scaling on the side of SKT, and for now KSV getting nothing around where they actually are strongest.
Blank has just been hanging around the bottom side. You'll notice his Krugs are still up and available. Haven't seen him really go up there. Just all the vision control around those Drakes. Another Infernal on the way would be huge for SKT's scaling composition if they could pick up double Infernal. So that's really where the focus has been in terms of sides of the map. The top lane has been left generally alone. I mean, it does make sense. It's hard to gank the Poppy, of course, and Camille not the easiest to lock down either.
Still this very early power spike build from Crown, largely around utility. Ruler not at 2 items yet, so no Muramana online is not a position where he really wants to be hard committing to a fight. I imagine KSV's current posturing around the Infernal, it's more about the delay than actually wanting to fight, but they may have to opt into it as SKT already on top of the Infernal.
Yep, here we go. It's going to be leashed up and a nice control ward in position. All the feathers have been left down, but look at this. Blank trying to go for the kidnap, and the flash gets off just in time, but the zoning effect is there. They're going to get the kill, and going for the dunk here. Going to get 2 is FLICKR on top of them. Ambition just trying to disengage. Blank still alive in a fantastic monsoon there from the Janna. FLICKR able to follow up now onto the kill, and Crown in a lot of trouble here. No flash left available. He should go down here. One more will do it. A double kill over to FLICKR as well, making it 4-0. 2 Infernals in SKT's camp.
A beautifully constructed fight around the Infernal at the perfect time before Muramana was online for the Ezreal. KSV didn't want to fight. Blank went in, occupied the backline, and even though that didn't lead to a teamfight victory initially, they got the Infernal, then got the bonus as Sejuani was too far forward, looking for a smite contest. They get the mid lane turret as well. KSV are being schooled in the early game by SKT. Even though they're scaling for SKT, the early game pathing of their jungler has been much more on point, and Ambition predictably has been second to most of the objectives, and that's the reality of Ambition in the jungle, but this is the reality of Blank suddenly being a lot more clutch in his early game decision making.
It's fantastic to see. It's not just Blank, but then you take a look at FLICKR's plays overall. I feel like FLICKR and Blank, they're just kind of holding hands together and high-fiving as they take down member after member. Just this combo has been so fantastic Effort having a good game on the Jana as well. Really got to give him props. Really good Monsoon positioning and Tornadoes overall in the fight. Doing his job, not looking nervous. And as you said, it's really nice to watch Blank just popping off and having a good series once again.
And also, it's really nice on the drafting front, because Koma has also taken a lot of criticism. And I know I've had my issues with the amount of scaling and the return to Sivir again and again in some of the team comps. Think about the second round, and the second round is where I feel coaches usually make their money, especially on the red side when you have counter picks. They were able to answer both Camille and largely the team comp from KSV with the Jana, because you look at the side of KSV, you say, okay, backline threat, it's just going to be Camille jumping in. We've already answered her with the Azir and the Poppy, so you might say, well, why the Monsoon? Why also the Jana? In this game, when Ardent Sensor is completed, the scaling attack speed that build provides, you ult now with the Monsoon. Azir and Xayah are going to profit of the AoE attack speed you're going to be picking up from that particular item. So there's actually going to be a very safe backline, topped up in health, but also buffed up in terms of damage. So really nice synergy there with the Jana that we don't see a lot of in the LCK.
So far, things have been looking a lot better for SKT in this series. It is just game number 1, 20 minutes in, but to be honest, I was not expecting SKT to even take a game off of KSV. I thought it was going to be a 2-0, and perhaps I had already sold them out a little bit too early, because they turn it around in this series and they're looking a lot better. But let's see if they can keep it up here. Blank coming down into the bottom lane, and he's seen the whole way. Ambition in position. Just trying to put on more pressure where they can. In this bottom lane, turret is getting quite low. Blank is just really confident to just walk in the face of Ambition and CoreJJ.
There's no threat of dying. He has ultimate up, he has flash up, and he has first rotation from his support. So they walk up. They just want to increase the pace of the game to SKT. Usually, this is the shoe on the other foot here for the side of KSV. They were the team expected to overtake in the mid game. That is definitely not something that's going to happen. Tal has been able to corral the Camille very extensively in the top side. So for now, SKT, basically everywhere you see Blank go, it should be a trade-up, given where the items are at this early. As Faker's gone for the Rylai's second, a target acquisition build, feeling confident that a mid-game item is the right way to go in this particular game 1.
It's really fantastic when you think about who else he's got. It allows Blank's engages to be just that much better. It allows the Poppy and the Xayah to catch up very fast as well. So definitely like the pick. Rylai's getting a buff on 8.4. For you guys who are a little bit behind on that, it did receive 10 more AP. So overall, definitely worth the amount of gold it's valued at right now.
It's about 101% gold efficient just based on the health and ability power, and you get the slow. That is, of course, the reason you opt into the item. So a item that synergizes with the team, but also is more than 100% efficient. It's very important in the mid game, which is where they're focusing on. Going to be Morella Nomicon next for just the team-wide healing reduction on the side of KSV. SKT trying to push up vision. Take another outer turret. They have 2 down already.
Look at Blank, though, just charging into them, forcing another flash off of CoreJJ with his ultimate. Very confident play out of a guy that I thought was playing very scared and nervous in some of his other series. Looking very confident on the Rift tonight.
Full control ward put down to completely take over. His nice outplay.
Oh boy, just totally missing that one. And there it is, the second Q comes in. Kyuve getting that solo kill. Now Ruler might be in some trouble here. Has to flash, but look at that. David Faker gets everybody into the team. A huge play that should amount in a bunch of kills here. Gonna get one, and now CoreJJ pretty trapped on the end of it. The Blade Caller helps out, and Faker picks up another kill on the back of it. SKT are flying away with this one.
One small piece of good news in the bot lane as the outplay comes in onto Tal. But in the 4v4, there's still very powerful Valdez. Massive engage from Faker. First highlight play from him in a couple of series. They're taking over the Baron pit. They're starting up the Baron.
This is going to be incredibly fast. They got double Infernal. The TP comes in first from Tall. It's going to be up to Ambition, but he's already locked down between these two. Can they even pick up the kill here? They're going to force his flash away, but a very easy Baron going over to SKT at 22 minutes into the game.
What a big play on the top side. On the bot side, you can say the same thing. Juve picks up his Camille, and we already mentioned that team fights will be a struggle for him with all the disengage. If you can outplay like this in the 1v1, maybe the 4-1 composition can take over. Seems unlikely, as Baron is usually the great answer for something like a 4-1. On the other side of the map, Cleanse, Flash ult onto 3. Beautiful stuff. Doesn't instantly kill all 3. They get the value they want with Blank getting a secondary engage. This is the SKT that we saw with Blossom that hasn't been there with Blank previously. They're putting it all together. They've got the extra experience. And for once, with Wolf not in the lineup, the shot calling seems pretty on point from SKT as well.
Whatever it is, it's working. A fantastic game one for them that just gives you and the team as well so much confidence to play well in the future. They pick up another dragon as well, a mountain drake, which means that their already extremely fast objectives are going to get even crazier as they do pick up that drake. No cloud drakes in this one, no ocean drakes, only the good stuff here for SKT.
And again, it's patch 8.4, so we don't have the super-powered in-combat cloud drakes that 8.5, the NALCS and EULCS are running. We expect that to be 8.5 next week. We don't have the ultra confirmation on that. Hopefully Tuesday we jump to the new patch. SKT all about the today though, not thinking about the future. Just want to pick up this win over KSV, and so far so good.
It's been looking good. FLICKR now just unbelievably fed. 100% kill participation, 4-0-2. Picks up a full Morellonomicon just to make everybody else's life even worse, especially the Karma. And can anyone touch him and Blank right now? I don't think so when you're this far ahead. Blank finishing off his Warmogs early on in the game as well just means that, as I said before, high-fiving as they take down member after member.
Blank going in anyway under the turret. Pure confidence from Blank. That was a very low percentage chance to happen, but a very good chance of putting the Fear of Life into Crown, who has gone full utility as we'd expect. Same build that he went last time out. Looking at the damage dealt numbers, and predictably, the SKT carries have been able to put out good numbers, and the Karma has largely been trivialized in this game. Can take the 5th outer turret of the game. Inner bot lane turret goes down, and KSV continue to just respond and wait for their opening. They're looking for a mistake, but so far SKT isn't making any.
They've got a really nice spread now. 4 members in the bottom side. FLICKR in the mid lane is going to come on over and always threaten. He's gotten so many big Emperor's Divides in this game that KSV must be quaking in their boots whenever they think about that 4-0-2 Azir getting into their back line. Got to be so careful. You can see how passively they're playing in their base, and it's just all SKT's Rift right now. Not what I was expecting, but certainly a breath of fresh air for a bunch of the SKT fans.
You do wonder if the mid lane Karma was wholly because of the pre-planned strategy to build around Ruler, or also because of the bans towards Crown's champion pool, the Vel'Koz, for example, that was banned away. We'll have more information on that in Game 2, because they'll definitely want to recreate the approach that they got the victory here in Game 1, SKT, if they are able to close this game, and they are in a very favorable position to do so. Baron wears off, and at least QV can return to trying to attack the Poppy in the side lane, the one thing that's working so far for the side of KSV. However, once Tal has teleport up, the playmaking can start, and QV will definitely be second to the Poppy in that.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned corralling the Camille. Yes, he died once, bad positioning, a little bit too aggressive in the lane, and he gets caught out, but Tal is not really here to carry from the top lane. He's not going to be going 1v1 versus the world champion top laner who had a crazy 2017. He's just there to make sure QV can't do anything, and Poppy is the perfect pick for him to not make any mistakes, just play very straightforward. Anytime Camille enters a fight, you knock him out, and that's it. You make it into kind of a 4v4 on the Rift.
Really interesting build from Bang, who does not go Infinity Edge third. Looking for a little pick onto Crown was FLICKR. He actually goes double attack speed, double Zeal item, no Infinity Edge. If you look at this team, there's so little backline threat with the disengage onto the Camille. He's going to be able to free auto. We'll hold the point.
Boy. That insta-cleanse from FLICKR means that now Ambition's ultimate is going to be down. But at least they do get the cleanse away from the mid laner, who's quite fed. But just a couple of attacks from Bang, and Crown needs to exit the lane now.
This build is all about proccing the on-hits from the Ardent Sensor and hitting the attack speed cap, as next to the Azir, they will have insane consistent damage, and the Q does apply the Ardent Sensor damage. So a different build, but a big one is looking for the dive here.
Yep, just looking to zone him out as Tornado comes in after the Zac jumping in, but Bang, he's beginning to pop off here, saying, come at me, boys, I can just handle all of you. Just one-shotting Ruler and Ambition, making it look easy with the red buff and all the buffs you were talking about. Bang saying, I want a little piece of the action too.
And it only gets worse when that Infinity Edge is complete. So SKT need to find a way, KSV, to threaten the backline, but your first thought is they can't, and now Ambition.
Well, Blank is a little bit too deep into the jungle. He's gonna have to kidnap his way out here. KSV a little bit too far behind to follow up onto that mistake, but at least they do get the Zac ultimate, the Let's Bounce out of Blank.
We'll be up again around the time that Baron spawns, about 50 seconds from now. Looking at the Gathering Storm, and the KSV Hope is pulling it late. Goes against what they drafted, but always the outside chance they can find a way to trivialize the front line. To me, though, Poppy Zac are just so sticky and so damn tanky with extra shields and healing that powering through them as just Ezreal largely for damage. Maybe a Blade the Ruin King, but he needs another 2 items to really threaten. And that's not Ezreal's role. He is not the greatest front-to-back AD carry. He's not Xayah in that particular way. So very, very hard to see a team fight that KSV win unless SKT are outnumbered or make a significant positioning mistake.
Interesting move here. SKT, rather, they send 2 members to do this Cloud Drake right when the Baron is spawning. So they gave up a little bit of control underneath that Baron. KSV didn't make the best of it, but they pick up a 4th Drake to also stack that Elder, and they want the Elder to spawn as fast as possible. So it makes sense. They just want to get it done before any Baron fights, and now they can begin to move over to the Baron.
KSV have finally found a way to go to the middle part of the map while QV is split pushing. So they are able to recreate the split push. That seems like their primary win condition right now. Seeing Camille in the side lane. Doesn't have much vision, but QV is making the play he has to and causing map pressure. Very Huni-esque from Worlds last year. KSV can start to put down vision around Baron. So they were strangled very hard 5 minutes ago. They've been able to actually get some map presence, as I believe FLICKR's looking for a big purchase and will be interrupted on his first back. SKT have pulled back, and that's allowed KSV map pressure they haven't had since, honestly, about 15 minutes into the game.
QV trying his hardest to just push in the bottom lane, but another great thing about Poppy is the very good wave clear. You know, the Camille doesn't have a lot of time to get in onto that turret and do much, just gets 1 Q auto, and that's about it. So does that. We'll have to wait a bunch more waves, though, before that turret even begins to go down, and already SKT beginning to set up around the Baron.
They have now the Zac and the Poppy to tank it and look for the turn. Usually with Poppy and Zac, you'd be talking about dive. But with the way Azir and Xayah do damage, the way SKT would prefer to play the fight is to have KSV come to them and then just kill them where they stand with the consistent Azir and Xayah, both of which will be over 2 attack speed. Looking for a pick his Ruler, does get the flash out of effort.
Yeah, unfortunate positioning there. Bang was always able to get away, but Effort tried to follow and had to burn his flash. Not the biggest thing in the world for a Janna, but can help out in the end of fights to pick off someone or just get better positioning with the Monsoon. We are going to have the Baron started up, and this is what we talked about. Double Infernal and the Mountain with just Azir damage, basically. That's going to be it. The Baron goes over so quickly. Nothing that KSV could do.
One of these really great red side strategies we see. SKT have done it before. It's taken under the nose of KSV in a bloodless fight. Don't even need the fight to get the Baron. This will help the Poppy to actually be able to push up into the Camille. And SKT now just need that one team fight to break the base and honestly break the game, because it feels like they've bossed KSV around the map for the better part of 30 minutes.
And speaking of timing, double banner of command finishes up right before this Baron is taken, and here we go.
It's the 8.4 full Bannon as well. How will KSV answer this? Very easy to tank the Mystic shots, and Camille's getting nowhere near it. This should be everyone stacking into mid lane and pushing down the base.
Yep, here we go, pushing on in. The first Bannon here. Not going to have much of a life, this one. Doesn't receive a name.
Use the first Bannon to walk up and face check the brush to allow them to cut between mid and bot lane rather than just stacking in one lane. So allowing Poppy to bring up the minion wave in bot.
And here we go. Effort going to use his now, and the real push begins. As the karma damage is laughable at this point. One empowered Q, and it doesn't do anything, even to the back line that still survives. And Siege tank getting to work here, everybody protecting it. That should be an inhibitor going down in just a second. Trying to engage here onto Ambition. Look at that FLICKR damage, it's unbelievable at this point. Ambition just throwing out a desperation ultimate saying, please, don't hurt me. But not much they can do as this Bannon minion is still pushing the bot lane.
It's still in the hard work, it's still in the heavy lifting. They can just walk around, keep the shades on, and feel cool, can SKT. It should be the first Nexus turret.
And now they don't have a Sejuani ultimate to engage. They at least have the smite, but Ruler and Crown getting close and eating up that damage means that SKT, they get the bottom side, the Nexus turret even on the bottom side. They're gonna go home though after receiving a bunch of gold.
Really like their approach to getting that inhibitor and then the Nexus turret. Going in the mid lane, baiting the team of KSV to think they were just gonna go down mid lane, using the first Banner of Command empowered minion to get safe wards, stop there being any flank from the Camille or Sejuani, and then stacking in the bot lane to get the inhibitor. It was a multi-step plan, well communicated, clearly. Seems to be no shot calling loss with Wolf out of the lineup. Maybe Effort's been focusing on that. It comes without Wolf in the lineup. Very, very clean from SKT, and the next time they do that, should be the end of the game.
Very true. I'm glad you say clean because that's the only thing this game has been from everybody on the side of SKT. Just a couple of mistakes and micro ones at that, not big ones. And well, we're going to begin pushing in once again. They even have that sun turret, the sand turret coming up behind them. Just to shorten that lane and give them a little bit of presence if KSV wanted to engage, which they absolutely cannot at this point. Bang! He's going 1v5 at this point, obviously with the help of the Janna, but oh boy, this is looking like a done game at this point. SKT want to push on to the Nexus.
They don't have any minions to do autos themselves, but the Bannon's going to do the hard work. The chunks are not coming. Needs to be a desperation engage from KSV.
Well, they're going to do that, and the Baron is going to timeouts here. So SKT not wanting to take any chances, saying, okay, you killed the Bannon, the Baron is done, let's go back home.
They're going to try and kite back to the Elder that just spawned. 4-stack Elder. It's going to be a big buff, but they can also look for the pick.
That they can, just trying to force a fight here, but good disengage there from KSV, not getting too close. Always just baiting it, but a very nice ward there above the Raptor camp. He's going to spot a bunch of them up here. Trying to get onto Bang. They are going to get onto him. He does get the Featherstorm out there just in time. The Windian's getting to work. And the top lane saying, if you want to fight us, we'll just delay, and eventually that turret should go down.
KSV got a lot of value out of that ward. They don't have one here, though, so Zach's not spotted.
Just endless action in the backline. Cuvee goes down now, and Ambition, stop watching. Just having a little bit of fun, because there's no way that he can get out of there. As Blank now trying to acquire some more targets. He's going to get one. This should be the end of the game. Another person goes down. CoreJJ, the only one that's left, and they're going to give that kill over to FLICKR. Definitely very well deserved, but 36 minutes is all it's going to take. Medium length game here. SKT looking clean as hell as they take game number 1.
And clean is a word we haven't been able to use to describe SKT all season. They have been far from clean. Even when they went on a winning streak with Blossom, it was aggression, not this clean play that the fans have been used to in the past. So with this lineup, Tal in the top lane, Effort in the bot lane. So 2 rookies for SKT at least. And when it comes to the top level of play, Tal was only playing in Challenger over in Europe. to have this level of performance seems to be they've spent a lot of time working out how to reintegrate effort, and the fact that the shot calling didn't take a noticeable drop down, in fact got better, is a really good sign. I think Blank was the biggest difference on their previous series. A really big step up from him. He controlled the game, both in vision control, in tankiness. He was the rich man's Ambition that honestly Ambition had represented compared to Blank in previous series. And KSV are kind of looking like a thunderstorm just went above their heads and just blew them away because they weren't in this game for more than about 5 to 10 minutes.
Very true. Ambition, the one who looks the saddest, certainly was a bit behind the 8-ball when it came to fighting up against Blank's fantastic play in game number 1. But guys, we're going to take another break. When we come back, KSV versus SKT, game 2.
탑 다이브 들리십니까? 야야 안돼. 네. 안 가요.
그러면 정글 선수
장글 복갱 안 감.
네, 다 들리시나요?
올라간 건데 복갱을.
네. 미드.
네, 미드 선수 안 들리신 분 없으시죠?
네.
네, 그러면 원질 선수
마이크 테스트 1, 2, 3, 4 1, 2, 3 1, 2, 3 짭짭.
1, 2, 3, you and me.
탈리아 멀어요. 입에다 치고 키워요. 이거 안쪽까지 확실하게. 끊깁니다. 선수가 방해됩니다. 경기다.
하지만 이제 걱정하실 필요가 없겠습니다. 오늘은 칸과 함께합니다. 킹과 드래곤의
와, 데미지가 너무 많은데? 저분 에너지 티시나. 누구셔?
혹시는 어디였어? 안 알려줄 건데?
박지선 성형님 아니죠? 아니.
저분 성승한 캐스터님 아니야?
그런 거 같은데.
킹조 드래곤 X 킹조 드래곤
라봉짱 보고 싶었어요.
라운드 보고 싶었어요.
한번 보고 싶었다니까 뭐야 이거 한번 보여줘야 되나? 칸 공격! 칸 기기기기기기! 진짜 나 떨려! 긴장돼!
다른 누구도 좀 막아줘야 되는 상황이 있었는데.
네.
이렇게 맞아요. 그래서 한발 가고 안쪽으로 터져갑니다.
조식에 써라 이거야. 조식에 써라. 라인이 터져버리면은 그마저도 부요화가 됩니다.
알고 있거든요. CSP는 알고 있었어요.
조식에.
올랐습니다. 코로까지
칸 잡아야죠.
방대 지정 뒤쪽으로 이동.
아니 칸이 이걸 살아가요?
공구에서도 완벽한 선수 파괴.
오늘은 칸 선수의 저 깎아머리만 계속 보는 것 같아요.
네. 제이스를 접어놨던 수많은 팬들에게 제이스 다시 한번 하라고 한마디 해주신다면요?
여러분들 제이스의 문제가 아니고 손가락의 문제예요. 좀 더 연습하세요.
동민이 형 좋아요. 카밀 피오라. 제가 피오라 할게요.
네, 3일에?
유성.
실직 시간 더 필요하신 분 계십니까?
한 1분 정도만 더.
알겠습니다.
동민이 형 1레벨 싸우고 나가죠.
바로 들어가야 돼?
네, 바로 싸우고 나가죠.
뭐 찍어야 되지? W. 호이. 안 돼, 이럴 때 W.
강피했죠.
더블 절대 찍으면 2 찍어야지 형.
나가자.
싸워요 그럼 빨리 싸워요.
더블 찍어
우리가
어떻게
들어와
봐?
봐.
빨리 일로 와요. 가운데로 와서 공평하게 싸워요.
어떻게 공평해? 나 W 찍었는데. 나와. 나갔어. 나갔어. 나와 빨리. 다들 기다리시잖아.
또 나와 나쁜 놈 만드네.
진짜 너 하나 때문에 기다려야겠냐?
아무도 안
스파님들
들어갈
입장 좀 생각해줘. 알았어?
스냅 배드. 네.
근데 저는 카메라 상대로 할 거 3개 이상이에요. 오케이. 그럼 저 피오라 주실래요?
이거 내가 볼때 피오가 약간 내가 볼 때 오늘 MVP가 나와 있으니까
오케이.
상대 조합 보니까 약간 느낌이 있어.
시작합니다.
네, 화이팅!
화이팅!
아래쪽으로 가면
공격을 해드리는 거지만
이거 아픈데요.
이것도
이거 아픈데요.
일단 블랙이 나오는데
전에
나 이거 봐줄게. 나이스. 넘긴다.
페이커 끌어놓습니다. 그리고 나머지 이스.
그냥 다릅니다. 지난 경기와 이번 경기의 경기력만 놓고 봤을 때 뭐 아무리 뭐 최근에